Warning! This video contains spoilers from the Cirque du Freak and Saga of Larten Crepsley series, both written by Darren and Shan. Viewer beware.
As days go by, we all need to learn to fly. If only I didn't care about the reason why. And all I wish for was fear to meet my dreams. I still believe that we can fly.
Hi guys, Wisteria2909 back for another episode of Reading the Wrong Way. This time it's a special edition where I'm only going to be focusing on reviewing a novel. We're going to take a return journey to the magical world of the Cirque du Freak, only this time we're going through the viewpoint of everyone's favorite vampire, Larten Crepsley. I reviewed the original series featuring Darren and Shan back in January and have now completed the prequel as part of my summer reading club list. When I first reviewed it, I had yet to read past the first book and recommended reading the prequel series after the original arc with Darren and Shan. I stand by that statement, but often wonder what it would be like to read from the prequel on, as the story would be told in real life. It's up to you if you're new to the series. So as I've stated, the Saga of Larten Crepsley has 4 books in it, with the final book being released May of this year. As much as I like the original series, I think because I have always loved Larten Crepsley, I in turn love this series just a little bit more. I think more readers will be able to relate to Darren than Larten simply because of his story taking place in a more modern time, with issues teenagers today are facing. This series is darker and deals with much more graphic things such as homicide and wars, specifically the World Wars. Things are described with gruesome and graphic details. I'd recommend this series for 16 and up, but if you're a parent with younger children, or a younger reader and think you can handle it, then go for it! Each of the 4 books in the series documents a different stage in Larten's life, starting in his childhood. The first book, Birth of a Killer, talks about his time as a child working in a factory where he commits his first murder and flees. He meets Saga, who bloods him into the world of the vampires. We follow him as we follow Darren, learning the ways of the vampires. Book 2, Ocean of Blood, picks up where Book 1 leaves off, with Larten as a teenager who is sick of the vampire ways and desires life among the humans. He takes on the cub life with other young vampires who gamble, drink, and flirt with women to pass the time. Larten travels the world both with the cubs and his assistant Melora, where more tragedy awaits him. Book 3, Palace of the Damned, sees Larten on the brink of giving up until destiny intervenes. We discover the facts about his first true human love, and the problems that can ensue when a vampire loves a human. In the final book, Brothers to the Death, Larten struggles with finding himself and his place in the world of vampires, his position on a potential war with the Vampinese, and what destiny may have in store for him. Of course, we all know that, don't we? So what do you need to know about the series? As stated, this is much darker than the original series. Darren's story is almost lighthearted despite the many things he faced. Larten's story is just terribly tragic, but it is also bittersweet. You get to see how he took his tragic past, dealt with it, and became the life-loving, almost carefree vampire we know him as. The story arcs dealing with the war are a bit hard to swallow, being some of the most graphic chapters in the series. But to imagine a fictional character being in such a well-known and documented setting was very pleasing to me. This story also focuses much more on the politics of Vampire Mountain, whereas in Darren's story, we get a small glimpse of the workings of the mountain. Since the next section will lead me into the major spoilers, I'll give my recommendation here. I recommend this series anytime people ask me what books they should read. A lot of teenagers like the darker horror stories, and this series seems to appeal to them. I of course love the original, and seeing a prequel featuring my favorite character had me excited from the day I heard about it. 5 stars for sure. Spoiler time! Let's talk about what I love about the series. I still cannot get over how well Darren Shan, the author, can work not only with dozens of characters, but also with different times and dimensions. The connections between this series and the original are mind-blowing. I'll start with Larten specifically. In this series, we learn how he got his trademark orange hair, his red clothes, his jagged scar, and how he came to acquire Madame Octa, but I won't get into the details of that. One of the first things that really made me laugh was when we first meet Larten in the original series. He has Madame Octa form a web in his mouth, and then proceeds to eat it, stating how cobwebs are a treat where I come from. This statement is first made by Saga in the first book of the prequel, who finds a young starving Larten eating cobwebs in a crypt. The other part that truly amazed me can be found in book 1 of the original series. Steve brings up an old portrait of Larten with a woman as proof he is a vampire. In book 3 of the prequel, there is a scene where Larten and the woman are posing for the very portrait Steve references. We learn much about the other characters of the series as well. We learn a bit about Ivana, but not much that we didn't already know. Mainly we see a more personal side of her. We meet Ara Sales when she is still a young assistant to the Lady of the Wilds, as well as her relationship with Larten that was only hinted at during the original story. We learn the backstory of Merlot, the Vampaneze from the second and third Cirque du Freak books. Speaking of the Cirque, it changes as well over the change of the series, with new performers reflecting the changing time periods and audiences. We get our first meetings with Curtis Smalt, as well as the vampire princes Paris, Fancha, Mika, and Arrow. 3 characters specifically really amazed me with their parts in the story. We get to learn more about the odd and disturbing cannibal, Daniel Spitz Abram, that Darren and Harcourt encounter at the Lake of Souls. Gafner Pearl is probably my favorite as far as surprises. Readers meet him when he is a baby and get to see him grow up into the man he is in the original series. We also learn about Truska's past. I'll leave this spoiler a bit open, but let's just say she isn't a human that can grow a beard at will. She is much more magical and freakish than that. I think that about wraps up my review, or rather my rant, about this amazing series. I cannot begin to even express how deeply amazed I am at how much control Darren Shan, the author, has at controlling the many different times and settings. I hope if you read them, you will feel as amazed and satisfied as I am. Also, since I'm in the middle of my summer reading list, I'm not sure if I'll be able to post the next video in the series on time. The next book I'm reading is The Warrior Heir, which is part of the trilogy by Sindachaima, which is quite a bit longer than all of the Larten Crepsley books. I believe the Crepsley books are around 200 pages maybe, and these ones are close to the 400s. So, we'll see what happens. We'll just keep hoping. Anyways, I hope I'll see you next time.
When I was given freedom, oh, all I did was plead. When I turned back, there was nothing to see. You closed your doors before I could open mine.